Welcome back to another episode of putting a V8 all-wheel drive drivetrain from a 2006 Tundra into this Volvo 940. Today, I've got to swap in the transfer case. So I've got a clearance underneath, move the frame rails so that there's room and get this thing stuck in there. I got a day off from work. We're going to get into it and see how far we can go. So let's take a minute and look at these two transfer cases. This is the unit out of the Tundra. This is the transfer case out of the Sequoia, and they look really similar. The input side is all the same. This one is a little bit longer, and that is because the special part is what's inside. This has a limited slip torsen center differential. So this does all-wheel drive, 4 high, 4 low, and 2-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, which gives you basically every combination you could want in an off-road adventuring ridiculous vehicle. And this was just hiding in Toyota's largest family hauler SUV. I think it's going to be really awesome in a lightweight V8 car. So that brings me to the million-dollar question. Will this transfer case bolt on like the internet tells me it will? And can I make it fit into the car? So down here under the car, you can see where the transfer case needs to fit on the back of the transmission, and that the car narrows down for just a drive shaft to run through here, and I need the whole width of the transfer case to fit, including the angle for the front output, which hangs down on this left-hand driver side in the US frame rail of the car. So this is going to all get cut and folded and welded back together until there's room in here for the transfer case to fit. I'm going to start by getting some measurements of the transfer case, both the length of how far back I need to clearance in the transmission tunnel and also the angle at which the output shaft comes down off of the center. So that should tell me what angle I need to match on the frame rail. So I'm going to measure back about 12 inches, which is right about to that bolt hole. Next, I need to get all of the undercoating off. Definitely has to come off before I weld anything anyway, so I might as well get it off now. And once all that's done, I'm marking out where I want to cut and fold over this inner frame rail to make room for the transfer case. All right, so my idea here is to bring this edge over to this slide. If I can get this over to here, I think that's about 45 degrees. That should match up with the slope of the transfer case. And then once I get these things kind of cut and hammered over, I can test fit, see how close I am, adjust, and then when it's looking like it's gonna work, then I'll start welding it up. It's a good idea to cover up openings like the back of this transmission if there's going to be sparks flying around, but it is not a good idea to shoot the sparks directly at the shop dowel. This, by the way, is why you wear a mask doing stuff like this, because this grit is everywhere. You don't want that in your lungs. All right, hopefully you can see what's going on here. The inside edge of this frame rail is now slanted over to match the slope of the transfer case. And it's a little rough, but I think it's going to get there. The question is this enough room? And I think the only way to answer that is to put the transfer case on, throw it up there, and see how close I get. And then I can adjust, cut a little more, weld it up and paint it, and I think it'll be good as new or good enough. Yeah, I'm gonna hurt myself. All right, how dumb is this? This is at least medium dumb. So this is where my plan stopped going according to plan, because no matter what I tried, I could not get this transfer case up off the ground and lined up with the transmission. It was just too heavy and awkward, and I just wasn't confident that I could get this lined up without messing up the seal on the back of the transmission. So I paused, called a buddy to come help, and until he gets here, I'm going to move on to doing some other little things. Okay, while I'm waiting, I found some more weights I can remove, and these are way down in that frame rail, and there's one on both sides. And so between that and the weight that was back here on the firewall on those studs, I'm going to see how much that weighs. This looks like 4 10-mil bolts. And I don't know how I'm going to fish it out, but hopefully I can get it out of the frame rail. Whew. Time to find out how much these weights weigh. We've got the firewall weight and 2 of the frame rail weights. So I'm going to throw them on the scale and let's see what they come out to. I'm going to start with the firewall weight, which is almost 5 pounds. Let's do the frame rail weight, a little over 7 pounds. The other one, just about the same. So all together, 19 pounds came out of the front end, all to be replaced with cast iron V8 block from Toyota and plenty of other heavy stuff. So every bit helps. You can tell it's springtime here in New England because it is raining yet again, and I have a cold that my kids brought home from school. But nevertheless, I had an open weekend, so I'm back out here in the garage making more room underneath this Volvo for the transfer case to fit. I was able to get the transfer case bolted up no problem as soon as I had another pair of hands to help. So with that done, I got the test fit, and I found out that I need a lot more room to really tuck this up the way I want it to be. So it's time to repeat the exact same operation on the other side of the car. The advantage now is that I can trace exactly the size that I need. The downside is I have to work around the transfer case, and it is somehow always in the way. So this was definitely one of those times that the fast way was slower than doing it the right way. I really should have pulled the engine and transmission out of the car again so that I had room to work. But I just kept after it until I got things bent into the shape that they needed to be. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So let me show you what it looks like now. All right, let's take a look inside. You can see the transmission is right there. So there's a transmission in the front and the transfer case right there with the breather. It's really tucked up in there. That's the one spot where it touches a little bit. I can make a little more room for that later. But all in all, that's pretty good. The shifter is going to have to sneak right up there to that opening. I'm going to worry about the shifter way later, but I do have a plan for it. Let's take a look underneath. All right, there you have it. It is tucked way up under there. I think it's going to be great. So there's the flange on that front output of the transfer case, and it is right there up under the floor. It's going to come right up to the front diff. I think that's pretty perfect. Starting to get a little sick of hanging out at the bottom of this car, but here we are again. I've got the welds done. They're okay at best, but they're about as good as I'm going to do on this. The frame rails are like 3/32, about 2 millimeters thick, so just thick enough that I wanted to do a real weld and not just tacks, but thin enough that I had some trouble with burning through it until I got the settings right. So they're not pretty, but I think they're going to hold, and it's the bottom of the car. So I'm just going to call it good enough because honestly, I don't know if I could do any better. So time to move on, and I've got to take care of these openings that did not get covered by folding the metal over. So I've got one right here, this triangular shape where the slanted section meets back with the square section of the frame rail. I'm trying to make that a smooth transition so I don't get any weak spots or stress risers there where there's an abrupt change in shape. I also have these kind of pie cuts to deal with. That would have been an area where the metal had to be stretched quite a bit, and I wasn't going to get that done just with a hammer. So I've got to fill those in somehow. I don't think I can leave them. I think I need to cover those with something. So I don't know if I'm going to make little triangular shapes and fit them in between. Maybe I'll put a plate over the whole thing. So I don't know quite what I want to do with those, but these, I'm going to just make some templates. I'm going to try using the masking tape and Sharpie method and see if I can get that shape traced out and turned into a piece of steel. find this thickness of steel in any flat sheets in the cutoff room at the metal supplier, which is where I was shopping, but I was able to find this box tubing that's the right thickness, and I'm just going to use the flat sections of this instead. So I'm going to trace these out. I'm probably going to have to adjust them a little bit. So I'm going to use the width of the Sharpie line to have a little bit extra, and I'll trim them once I get them in place because I don't know how much to trust these tape templates. But it's a start, and you know, it can't be too far off. All right, here's my little patch piece with one small bend in it, and that fits up there pretty nicely. So that's good enough on this side. And then on this passenger side, I've got the other patch, and it fits pretty good. And I think this is good to get welded in also. I can't tell you how pleased I am to have that all put back together. I am definitely going to take care of those pie cuts, but for now, you just got to look at how good this transfer case fits. Looks like it belongs. The front drive shaft has lots of room. Those first welds were a little rough, but the second ones with the patches, I don't know why, they came out beautifully. I think we're good to keep moving. So next up, custom rear sump oil pan, some custom engine mounts and transfer case mounts, and then we can start fabbing up a 3-link suspension in the front of this 1994 Volvo sedan. So going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. See you next time.